Hi, I'm Bob Nagin, co-founder of Whiz-Bang Retail Training, co-creator of both the Retail Mastery System and the Retail Sales Academy. And I'm glad we get to spend a few minutes here today talking about managing your mindset, controlling your stress, and saving your sanity. Because these are incredibly uncertain times, aren't they? You know, in your industry, in bridal, wow. Just everything has been turned on its head. So not only are we going to explore selling a little bit, but this program is taking a bigger look at how you control what's in your head. You're going to get specific strategies and tactics, concepts and perspectives that will, just sort of help you keep your head through the rest of this pandemic until things get back to normal, through this recession until things get back to normal. But before we begin, I'd just like to share a little bit about myself so that you know that indeed I have walked in your shoes. Although I have never been in the bridal business, I spent 19 years as a retailer. When I was 23 years old, I started one of the world's first kite shops, and I grew that business, the Aaa Kite Company, from a pitiful $17,000 in annual sales my first year to about a $3.5 million a year business when I sold it to my brother 19 years later. My brother Steve continues to own and successfully run the Aaa Kite Company. Now it's called Mac Kite. But then after having built that business and really sort of dialing it in, then my wife Susan, who is also a retail expert, she is a department store executive, a senior buyer. Then Susan and I started Whiz-Bang Retail Training in 1999. And for the last 20 years, we've been working with independent retailers just like you. I mean, we don't work with big chains. We don't work with department stores. We work with small to mid-size, independent brick and mortar retailers just like you. And in that almost 40 years, I have talked to thousands and thousands of retailers in every industry. And I've gained some perspective in that time. And that's what I'm hoping to share with you. You know, I've been through 4 recessions, 5 recessions. My business almost went broke a couple of times. A lot of stress involved with that. You know, during this pandemic, we've been sort of really working with people all the time to help. I mean, yes, it's strategies. Yes, it's tactics. Yes, it's marketing. Yes, it's how you approach business right now. But the most important thing I found is how you manage your head, how you manage your mind. So what we're going to do today is we're going to sort of go through 3 different kinds of stresses. First, we're going to talk about annoyances, how to deal with annoyances, because annoyances are a prevalent part of this pandemic, right? And annoyances can really chip away at your optimism, at your enthusiasm. It's really like a death with 1,000 cuts. So we're going to talk about annoyances. We're going to talk about stress. How do you proactively manage your stress as an independent retailer? And then finally, we're going to talk about dealing with the uncertainty, because this is not done. We don't know when it's going to be done. It is incredibly uncertain. We don't know when the economy is going to recover. You know, there is so much uncertainty. And so, you know, again, I'm going to share with you, you're going to learn specific strategies and tactics and perspectives that will help you remain positive, help you remain hopeful, help you keep your head in the game, help you keep your balance, help you manage your mindset, control your stress, and save your sanity. So the first thing I want to talk about is annoyance, because as I mentioned, annoyance is one of those things that if you don't have some real tools to deal with it, will eventually wear you down, right? Annoyance after annoyance after annoyance all of a sudden your day has gone sideways and you're not getting anything done. You take it out on your team, you take it out on your customers, and this is not what we want to have happen. And the first thing I want to talk about when I talk about annoyances is this difference between an incident and a problem. And I see it all the time where people take an incident and in their head it becomes a problem. And then once it becomes a problem, they feel the need to react, a need to create policy. So an incident is defined as something that happens every once in a while, right? Somebody comes, you get a one bad review on social media every 6 months. This isn't a problem. This is an incident. This is a disgruntled customer. Maybe they didn't like your mask policy. Maybe they were stressed out because the bride-to-be was not behaving the way that they should. But I see this happen all the time. An incident is something that happens, it just happens every once in a while. A problem is something that happens regularly. So if you're getting 4 bad reviews on social media every week, now that points to a problem. It points to a problem. And an incident just needs to be let go, right? Oh, it's an incident. I can just let that go. I'm going to talk about BAM in just a second. A problem, however, needs to be dealt with. So, you know, one of the ways to look at it is everything that happens that annoys you is just a data point, right? We let ourselves get caught up. We let this thing that happens, this incident, turn, you know, the story starts playing in our head, and it goes from something that should be just dismissed immediately into this big giant problem in our head. And so I really want to encourage you to recognize that when something happens that annoys you, the first question to ask yourself is this an incident? Is this something that rarely happens, that I don't really need to deal with, that I can just dismiss? Or does this thing that's annoying me point to a deeper problem? Because if it is a real problem, that's good, because problems exist for your growth. Problems exist to show you where you need to grow. Problems exist to create solutions. Problems show you that you need to develop skills. So the first thing when we talk about annoyances is this distinction between an incident and a problem. An incident can be dismissed. A problem needs to be dealt with. And I can't tell you how many coaching sessions I've had. You know, private clients, we talk regularly, and the question keeps coming back. They're frustrated. They're annoyed. Is this an incident or is this a problem? Yep, it's an incident. Good. Then we know what to do, which leads us to the second, tool for dealing with annoyances. And it's this thing called BAM. BAM is an acronym for breathe, acknowledge, move on. That difficult customer, if it is an incident, here's the way to handle it. This is a psychological trigger for moving on. So you breathe. Oh, that woman's driving me crazy. Oh, that woman's driving me crazy. I don't know, whatever mantra you want to find for yourself. But it starts with a deep breath, because we know that when you take a deep breath, the physiology changes. And when your physiology changes, your ability to manage your mind changes. The second part, so take a deep breath. Somebody annoys you, take a deep breath. The second part of BAM stands for acknowledge. And this is really important, because how you feel is how you feel. Don't deny how you feel. Don't say, I don't care what that person is saying, or I don't care about that social media review, or I don't care about what my employee did that was bothering me. Acknowledge that you feel that way. Be real with yourself, right? And then M stands for move on. You see, so it's a three-step process that allows you to go from this whole thing that I talked about earlier, where an incident becomes a story in your head, and that story keeps playing itself out, and that story keeps taking you down that rabbit hole, and pretty soon that story, that incident, has chewed up half of your day. Has that ever happened to you? I'm sure it has. Everyone I know who's a retailer, who deals with the public, has these issues. I certainly know that it happened to me. So BAM, breathe, acknowledge, move on. Years ago, Tony Robbins taught me a power move, not me personally, but in one of his courses. And a power move is when you link up physiology to psychology. And so I'm not standing right now, but my Tony Robbins power move was something like, I snap my finger. So if you can find a power move, clap your hands, tug your ear, find a physiology, a physical movement that you can link with BAM, it's going to make it even more powerful. So let's say you have a team member who is frustrating you. And again, if a teammate member is frustrating you, it's probably not an incident. It's probably a problem that you need to deal with. But let's just use that as an example. And so something happens, and you don't have time to deal with it proactively on the spot. You might just go like that, right? The touching your ear and breathing at the same time is the trigger to move you into acknowledge and then to let you move on. Again, what are we trying to do? We're trying to avoid this death by 1,000 cuts. We're trying to avoid letting the little annoyances that happen every day as part of your life as a retailer, but particularly the annoyances that happen every day with your life as a retailer in a pandemic, in a recession, while you may be trying to educate your children at home while you're trying to run a household and a business at the same time. You're just trying to create this toolbox to deal with that. And the final tool that I want to talk to you about or share with you to deal with annoyance is this thing called Q-tip. Now, a lot, if not most of the things that are annoying have their roots in people. Somebody says something, being in bridal. I don't need to tell you, I've never been in the bridal business, but we have clients who are in the bridal business. But I know there is a lot of tension, and people act out in ways that you may not approve of. And so Q-tip is an acronym for quit taking it personally. Quit taking it personally. Because we have a tendency, to get mad, right? You can't talk to me this way. And that annoyance, again, becomes a story that starts playing itself in your head, and it will ruin your day. And with the annoyances, again, all of these tools are ways for you to get past the annoyance so that you can do the important work, so that you can do the work that needs to be done, so that you can sell that bride and her bridal party, so that you can build your business, so that you can have balance in your life. So Q-tip is a metaphor, an acronym for quit taking it personally. But here is the physical association, just like we talked about. I'm going through a list of power moves here. Q-tip goes like this. You know how when you clean out your ear with a Q-tip, you rub the Q-tip between your thumb and your second finger? This is exactly what you do. So a person is annoying you and you're catching yourself going to that place where you're taking it personally. You don't have to do it you don't have to hold up in front of them and go, hey. What you can do is just have that Q-tip going just by your side and just roll it, and that becomes a physical reminder to you that everybody has their own problems, everybody is doing with the best that they can, and them acting out to you or at you is not really about you. It's about them and the pressures that they're under, the circumstances that they are going through. And, let's just face it. Some people are idiots. You deal with idiots all the time. You deal with enough people, you find out that some of them just behave badly. Some of them don't know whether to behave badly. And just by understanding that and just having these tools, right? Understanding that or determining whether it is an incident or a problem. Going through, bam, or, right there on the floor, just start rolling that Q-tip in your hand. These are all ways to deal with annoyances. And again, I keep coming back to it because I like to reinforce key points. Annoyances need to be dealt with immediately because they have a tendency to snowball, and then pretty soon you've lost an hour of your time, a day of your life, or a week of your life. So deal with annoyances right up front. Those were 3 different tools that you can use to deal with annoyances. The second part of this whole idea of how do you build a business? How do you sell effectively in a pandemic? How do you balance everything that's going on psychologically? Because, not only are we in the middle of a pandemic, which has an enormous amount of stress associated with it, and you're trying to keep you and your team and your customers safe. Not only are we in a recession, and that brings a lot of stress and uncertainty, but as I mentioned, some of you are trying to run a business and educate your children at home. Some of you are trying to run a business and manage a household by yourself. Some of you are trying to manage a business and take care of vulnerable family members. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't need to tell you, but that is stressful, and what we're trying, let me just sort of go off of my script for a moment. Part of the way to let this all go is to recognize that this isn't a sprint, this is a marathon. And what you're trying to do is you're just trying to survive. And one of the ways to survive is to proactively manage your stress. Because if you let that stress continue to eat away at you, you are going to become burned out. And when you are burned out, you are no good to anybody. So one of your challenges, and what we're going to talk about here, 4 different ways for you to manage your stress, is for you to proactively manage your stress in such a way that you have a life, that you don't feel overwhelmed, that you don't feel so frazzled that you can't do the work you need to do to survive. If you fly a lot, you know that they come on and they tell you, if we have problems, there's going to be an oxygen mask that drops. And when that oxygen mask drops, make sure you take care of yourself first. Once you've put the oxygen on your mask on your own face, then you have an opportunity to go help others. And this is what I'm saying to you. If you want to be able to be a good wife, a good daughter, a good husband, a good father, a good friend, a good boss, somebody who is doing the job of helping these brides and their families and their bridal parties, really create that special day, you need to take care of yourself first. The first thing I'm going to share with you to reduce your stress is a system that I developed when I was a retail store owner. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever had it where you go into your store, just filled with enthusiasm for the day, determined to get a lot done. Your to-do list is all written out and you're ready to go get it, and you open that door and then this happens, and then that happens, and yes, a vendor calls, and then you go out on the floor and you've got an appointment, but then the floor gets slow, so you run down to your office and you start to work on the schedule. And then somebody comes into the store and you get pulled away. And so your whole day gets chewed up, and at the end of the day, you're tired. You've worked hard. And then you say, but man, oh man, I didn't get done what I needed to get done. And then the day turns into a week, and at the end of the week, you go, man, I really busted my butt this week, but I didn't get anything important done. And then the month, then a quarter, then a year. And this happened all the time to me. And so I created a system called the Retailer's Time System. And when I applied this system, I developed it and applied it to my work life, all of a sudden I found myself getting lots more done, and having a lot less stress. Why was I having a lot less stress? Because I was getting a lot more done. Not just a lot more, but I was getting the right work done. So my business went from moving forward slowly to moving forward with leaps and bounds. So there's 4 kinds of time. 4 kinds of time in the Retailer's Time System. There's flex time, focus time, floor time, and free time. And flex time is what I spent my time in. Excuse me. And flex time is when you're doing a little of this, a little of that. That's what I was talking about. I would work on the schedule, and they'd call me on the floor. A vendor would call, and I'd talk to the vendor. A friend would come in and say, hey, you want to go out for a cup of coffee? And I'd say yes. So I was being pulled in 1,000 different directions, and I was doing lots of things but never getting anything done. And, again, I've talked to thousands of independent retailers like you, and flex time is your enemy. As a retailer, you can't eliminate flex time. That's just part of the nature of retail. People coming, people going, fires that need to be put out. But what you want to do is you want to contain it. You want to make as little of it as possible by really, really focusing on the next 3 kinds of time and scheduling them proactively. So we talked about flex time, and again, we want to severely diminish the amount of flex time. The second kind of time is focus time, and focus time is the second most valuable kind of time, because focus time is where you work on the important things. So focus time is when you work on your marketing plan. Focus time is when you create a strategic vision for your business. Focus time is when you're building that training program. Focus time is when you're doing those big picture stuff. Now, actually, let me back up just a little bit. There's 2 kinds of focus time. There's the big picture focus time that really moves your business forward in a meaningful way. And then there's the focus time where you're doing the logistics of your business. If you're still writing the schedule, write it all at once. Give yourself, figure out what those tasks are, those weekly tasks that are part of your managerial life. And rather than doing them a little bit here, a little bit there, you say, I'm going to spend 2 hours on Tuesday morning, and I'm going to write the schedule. I'm going to contact my vendors. I'm going to do whatever it is that you need to do, okay? So those are your tasks. But then the most important, and this is what I was alluding to earlier, is when you start engaging in education, when you start doing the important work that needs to be done, when you start really, really building your business. You know, Michael Gerber in his seminal book, The E-Myth, talks about the difference between working in your business and working on your business. And when you start using focus time to work on your business, good things start to happen. I was in a mastermind with a gentleman named Chris Knight, and we were in a meeting, I don't remember where it was, but he said something that just blew my mind. He said, in the beginning of a business, the more you do, the more you make. But there comes a time in a business where the more you think, the more you make. And since you can't do and think at the same time, the challenge and the opportunity for you as a business person is to find ways to think more and do less. And that's what focus time is all about. If you have our retail mastery system, you know, going through it and learning is focus time. If you're reading a book or taking a course, that is focus time. But all of those things, filling up your brain and education is part of focus time, but also doing the work, creating a vision for your business, understanding and actually articulating your strategies, building a training program, building a marketing plan. All of these are focus time activities. And I'm looking at you right here and saying, if you don't proactively schedule the time, it's not going to happen. Flex time will naturally eat up into your focus time. But if also, I'm going to say to you, if you give yourself, start with 4 hours a week, an afternoon or a morning. And, you know, the deal is that you don't check your email, you don't check your social media feeds. You tell your team that unless there is blood or smoke, not to call you, and you figure out the important stuff. Put it on your calendar and do that work. If you start with even 4 hours a week, you are going to see dramatic improvements in your business in a very, very short time. And what you're going to find is as you do this important work, you're going to have to put out less fires and you're going to have more time for focus time. And it becomes this virtuous cycle. It becomes this virtuous cycle where you are educating yourself, you are doing the important work, and you are making more time to do that, and your business becomes better, your business becomes more profitable, your culture becomes stronger, and you experience a lot less stress because you're doing the important work. Now, the third type of work, of time, is floor time. Excuse me. And floor time is super important in my opinion. I know many retailers who got their businesses going and worked the floor for several years, and now they're rarely on the floor and they're super happy about it. And if that's you, that's great, but here's what I think. This is my opinion. I think it's really difficult to really know what's going on in your business if you're never on the floor, if you're never interacting with your customers, if you're never interacting with your team. And so I think that floor time, even if it's only again, 4 hours a week. So if you don't like being on the floor, if you have other things that you find are more valuable uses of your time, you still need to be on the floor. Because if it's your business, if you started it especially, you have this deep understanding of what you want from your business, what you want from your team, what you want for your customers. You know, you've built that knowledge, and, you know, unless you're on the floor, you miss things. And the other reason is, here's my story. So I loved being on the floor. I was good at it. I was a great salesperson. I was the best salesperson in my company, And I loved it, you know. I mean, my kite store morphed into a toy store. And I loved it. I loved being on the floor. I loved the interaction. I loved being a retailer. I loved it when it got busy. Oh, man. It just, oh, we're rocking. I loved that. But what I found was that when my business started to grow, and we had several years where we grew really, really rapidly, when my business started to grow, I never was on the floor. And then one day I walked down, our offices were upstairs, and I walked down onto the floor of one of our stores here in Grand Haven. By that time we had many, many locations. And I looked around and I didn't know one of my employees. And I was like, who's training them? I mean, how do I know what kind of experience my customers are getting? And the answer was I didn't. So that's when I developed this concept of floor time. So floor time is when you schedule yourself on the floor and all you do is on the floor. So you either sell or you work with your team members, right? So you don't, if there's a call from a vendor, nope. You know, all you're doing is you're focusing on the floor. You're there. You're present on the floor. And, you know, what I found was that it was great because I did not allow distractions. I was scheduled on the floor. So here's another important point about floor time is schedule yourself on the floor. So if you normally have, let's say, 4 coverage or 6 coverage on a Saturday, don't make it 6 plus you, make it 6 including you. You are one of the on the floor team, and that's all there is. And if you're busy, you're helping customers. If you're not busy, you're working with your team, you're coaching. But that by scheduling that time, all of a sudden, you being present on the floor during that time gives you valuable insights into what's happening on the floor. And I just happen to think it's a lot of fun. So do you see what's happening now? What we've done is we've scheduled focus time, we've scheduled floor time, and finally, the best time of all is the 4th kind of time, and that's free time. I'll tell you a story. Somewhere on YouTube from 15, 16, 17 years ago, there's a video where I had a lot more hair and I was talking about the 3 F's. Because when I created this, this system for myself, there was only flex time, floor time, and focus time. And free time, which is the 4th kind of time, wasn't even part of my mentality. My thinking was that because I experienced the advantages of being an entrepreneur, I always was working. So I'll give you an example. Every year during winter break, my wife Susan and our boys Joe and Sam would go out west skiing for 4 days. And the way that I approached my time at that time is I'd get up a little early and I'd check my emails, and then we'd ski, and at the break I'd check my emails, and then at lunch I'd check my emails. So I was never off. I was always kind of off and kind of on. I was in this gray area. And then I joined the Strategic Coach program. And Strategic Coach is a program developed by one of my favorite business thinkers, Dan Sullivan. And the very first day of Strategic Coach, both Susan and I joined. And our coach wasn't Dan Sullivan, her name was Mary Miller. She was talking about Dan Sullivan's entrepreneurial time system. And Susan and I felt very smart because we had already created our retailer's time system. But then she talked about free time. And Dan Sullivan defines free time as 24 hours, midnight to midnight, where you don't think about your business. You don't check your email. You don't read the trade mags. You don't check your social media. You proactively check out of your business. And she saw me in the back. My coach saw me in the back. And she walked up, she looked at my name tag, she said, "Bob, you look like you're freaking out." And I looked like I was freaking out because I was freaking out. The concept of totally getting away from my business for 24 hours was totally foreign to me. But I worked at it. And then when we got home that day from that first meeting, our sons were young. They're probably fourth grade. And, we came home. We drove back from Chicago. And the first question Joe asked me was, our oldest, "So how was it? What'd you learn?" And I told him about free time. And he looked at me and he says, "Dad, you're always working." And I thought about it. And I thought, that's right. I don't give him my full attention like I should. I don't allow myself to rest. And all of the studies are now showing that you must take time off, that you must give yourself a break, particularly in this pandemic. You have to give yourself a break. You cannot work yourself to burnout because, again, if you get too burned out, you're good for nothing. And when we talk about stress, you have to proactively manage this. You have to take time off. Now, I know people who can't take a day off for lots of reasons. If that's you, you must learn to. When you leave your business, don't turn on your computer again. Or don't check your social media feed. Or just be very, very intentional about not working, about trying not to think about your work. This is so important, and it's so hard to do. I get that. I worked incredibly hard to learn how to take a free day. I've worked incredibly hard to shut it off when I go home. It runs against our nature as entrepreneurs, and I get that. But recognize how important it is. So when we talk about reducing stress, the retailer's time system is a tremendous way to reduce stress because it keeps you in touch with your business. It keeps you moving forward with the most important things that you must do to move your business forward, and it gives you the ability to rest. So I'll tell one other quick story here. Once upon a time, I went to a program. I did a full-day program for a shoe manufacturer, Z-Coil, and I did a full day, and I just sort of mentioned the retailer's time system. And I did a couple of follow-up calls with people who wanted some coaching, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I asked them, every single one of them, what was the most valuable thing that you got out of that day? And all of them but one said, that retailer's time system has really made a huge difference in my business. So I'm encouraging you, adopt it. Schedule your first schedule your free days, then schedule your focus time, then schedule your floor time, and really, really work hard at containing your flex time. 3 other things real quickly. Meditation has been proven beyond any doubt to have a huge impact on your stress level. My favorite meditation app is 10% Happier, one of the best investments I've made in my sort of mental health. What I like about 10% Happier is it's not just a meditation. It's not just guided meditation like, say, Calm is. There's lots of meditation apps out there. But and I've used Calm quite a bit. I've used Headspace before. But I use 10% Happier now, and I'm very happy with it because it's a combination of mindfulness lessons taught by experts followed by a guided meditation. So if you can get in the habit of spending 15 minutes a day meditating, you will find your stress levels really, really going down. You will find yourself being much more self-aware. Trust me on this. Trust me on this. Go download the 10% Happier app. You can get 7 days free, or I don't even know what the deal is anymore. But trust me on this. Meditation is a tremendous tool for you in the middle of this pandemic. And the third thing that I wanted to talk about when it comes to managing stress is exercise, particularly if you can exercise outside, go for a walk, run, get your heart moving, breathe some fresh air. You know, we all know what stress is. The more stressed we get, the more withdrawn we become, and it all builds on itself. So what we have to do, and why I'm sharing these tools with you, is you need to have tools to use to be proactive about managing your stress. And the final thing, and this is something that I struggle with, is sleep. The more stressed I am, the more uncertain things are. Even if I'm managing my time and I'm meditating and I'm working out, I mean, some people can't get to sleep. I'm one of those sleepers who wakes up in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about things, and everybody has different solutions to their sleep issues. But I just really wanted to point out that if you're managing stress, being proactive about finding solutions to your sleep is really important. And, you know, let's go back to this thing, because this is what I did before the pandemic, when I really was starting to get my sleep under control, making it happen. And then the pandemic came and that threw a bunch of stuff out the window. But now I'm getting back into the groove, is to recognize that every problem merely is a path to a solution. So if the problem is I'm not sleeping well, the solution is, I don't know what the solution is, but it means that I have to develop new skills. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But I just wanted to sort of talk about, when we talk about stress, understand that managing your time with the retailer's time system, meditating, again, I really recommend 10% Happier, exercising and sleeping well. These are all ways to manage your stress. And the better you manage your stress, the better you're going to be as a business person, the more balanced you're going to be, the better able you're going to be to make it through this pandemic in one piece. Still in business, still thriving, ready to go. So the final thing to talk about, remember I talked about that in the beginning. We dealt with annoyances. You have some tools to deal with annoyances. You have some tools to deal with stress. The third is uncertainty. And uncertainty is similar but a little different than stress. So how do you deal with uncertainty? Because this is the most uncertain time any of us have ever gone through. I think we can acknowledge this. Who knows when the pandemic's going to end? Who knows when the recession's going to end? Who knows what's going to go on with education? Who knows what's going to go on with retail? All of this is stressful, and all of this, but these are tools to deal with uncertainty. The most important thing, big picture, the most important way to deal with uncertainty is to take the long view. The long view is to recognize that this is a hard time in the middle of a long time. I used to backpack a lot. And if you backpack a lot, you know that sooner or later you are going to get stuck in horrible weather, often for days on end. And you're going to be miserable for days on end. But one of the most valuable skills you learn as a backpacker is not the ability, it's not your equipment, it's not, what stove you use, it's your ability to soldier on. It's your ability to suffer stoically, right? And that's part of what we're talking about here, is when you understand that this is a long road and this is an unpleasant stretch in it, it makes it easier. You know, I talked about Dan Sullivan a couple minutes ago. Dan Sullivan contends that entrepreneurs have grown 5 years in the last, 5 months. And I don't know about 5 years, but I just want you to recognize that what you're going through and all of the stress and all of the uncertainty is changing you in a fundamental way, in that when this is done, you are going to look back at it and say, wow, that was hard. That was difficult. That was scary, but I made it. And I'm better because of what I learned. I'm more resilient because of what I went through. So recognize this is a long game. But one thing that makes it even easier is to write a vision statement. A vision statement that's between 7 and 15 years out. And a vision statement is where you put yourself into the future and you write as your future self. And you write and you put down on paper what you want your business to be, what you want your life to be. What is your vision for your future? And this is one of the most powerful exercises you can do. And I'm really encouraging you to do this. You know, our highest level group is the Platinum Mastermind group. And, you know, it's by application and invitation. But the first thing we do with people who join this group of incredibly smart retailers is we have them write a vision statement. Because think about this. If you don't know where you're going, you don't know where you're going to end up. If you are clear about what you're trying to do, everything else is just part of the process of getting there, including the unpleasantness and the stress of uncertainty. So if you want to write a vision statement, you can look up, go to Inc. magazine, or just Google Inc. Zingerman's. Zingerman's is a family of businesses in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Inc. magazine named it one of the best places in America to work. Inc., Zingerman's, Vision, and there's an article written by my friend Ari Weinswag, and he talks about how to write a compelling vision. If you take 2 hours to start writing your vision and then, sort of polish it up for a day or two, you will be amazed at how that document will pull you forward and give you hope when you're stressed out because of the uncertainty. So have a vision. And then here are a couple of tools to help you make decisions that will help you move you and your business to your vision. And these are a couple of mental models that my wife Susan and I created. And actually, this first mental model we created during the beginning of the pandemic because everybody had to make so many decisions on the fly. And it's the AAA method. And AAA stands for assess, adjust, and advance. Because we have to make decisions on the fly, fourth quarter. We have to make, supply chain. So there are so many things going on that we have to be able to make good decisions quickly. So the first A stands for assess. And so when you feel stressed out, when you feel like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do, the first step, you just automatically apply the AAA method. You say, what is really going on? This forces you to stop, detach yourself from the problem, and really think critically about what's happening. let's say you get a lot of your goods from China and the supply chain is broken. That is a problem. You assess that problem. You have to look at it with accurate eyes. You have to be engaged in what we call accurate thinking. So, but once you have an assessment, what's wrong or what's right, then you need to adjust. You need to change, right? Here's the problem. You've assessed the problem. What do I need to do? So really, it's what's happening. What do I need to do? So now when we start thinking about what do I need to do, there are two things I want you to think about. The second is this model that we call ADD. And ADD stands for ask, discuss, decide. And I created this model when I found myself talking to clients, and I would say, well, ask your team what to do. Ask your team what to do. Ask your team what to do. So it's really about that. So, as entrepreneurs, we often think that we need to have all the answers. And that's just not true. We don't need to have the answers. What we need to do is be able to find the answers. That's our responsibility. We don't need to know everything. We just need to be able to find it. So ask, discuss, decide is you pull your team in with all of their wisdom and all of their experience, and you say, our supply chain is, this manufacturer cannot get us the dresses we want. Discuss what should we do? And then lead a conversation around it. Take all of the wisdom and experience of your team and bring it to bear on the problem, and then decide. So do you see what's happening? You're creating a mastermind out of your team. And so when we go ADD, assess, adjust, when you need to make adjustments, one of the best ways to find out the best adjustment is to employ ADD and ask, discuss, and decide with your team. And then, or if you and your team can't decide, another thing to do is to ask who, not how. So as entrepreneurs, we often say, how am I going to solve this problem? But who, not how, flips it on its head. Somebody solved the problem already. And the question is, who's already solved the problem? So if your team doesn't have the answer, you say, where do I go? Do you have industry mentors? Do you know other people who might have solved that problem? Do you know consultants who you might be able to pay who can help you solve that problem? So who, not how, because how takes time. Who is often a shortcut that will cost you money sometimes, but will also save you money by getting you to a solution faster. So do you see, we're going to go back up to AAA. Assess, I'm having a problem. Adjust, how am I going to solve this problem? I'm going to ADD or who, not how. And then finally, advance. Assess, adjust, advance. What's going on? How do I solve that? Or how do I take advantage of that? And then go and do that. Take action. What's the problem? What do I do? Now go do it. And, this is how you deal with uncertainty. Uncertainty is all about knowing where you're trying to go, understanding that this is a long road. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And although the times that we are in are incredibly uncertain and stressful, if you are willing to grow and change, if you are willing to, to ADD, who, not how, if you're willing to do what you need to do, not only to, if you're willing to do what you need to do to survive, this will end. And when it ends, you will be better off. You will be better off. You will be smarter. You will be wiser. You will be more resilient. So when we talk about the future, and when we talk about managing your mindset and managing your stress and saving your sanity, again, 3 things. First of all, dealing with annoyances, incidents, or problems, BAM and Q-tip. The second thing is stress. Recognize that stress is part of this game. And understand the retailer's time system. Use it. Use it. It will work. Start to meditate. Start to exercise. Start to sleep. The point is, be proactive. And finally, understand that uncertainty is where we are right now. Don't put your head in the sand. Don't panic. Just recognize that it is uncertainty. This is our reality right now. But learn where you're going to go. Articulate where you're going to go. Write that vision statement. Revisit it regularly. And, use AAA. Use that method for rapid decision making, to take action, to move forward. And then ADD and who, not how is how you plug into AAA. I apologize for all the TLAs. My sons accuse me of loving 3-letter acronyms, TLAs. But, so I hope that you found that helpful. Because again, we work with thousands of retailers, and I understand that these are really, really difficult times. Really, really difficult times. And that's why I'm so honored to be with you, to share some of these time-tested strategies, tools, and tactics to help you make it through these times, to help you get through this, to help you build a bigger and better business because of what we're going through. And when you build a bigger and better business, you also get a bigger, better, more balanced, more fulfilling life. So my name is Bob Nagin. If you liked what you heard here, I would encourage you to go to whizbangtraining.com. There is an H in Whizbang. We send out free tips. We have lots of free resources. And of course, we have programs and products that you can invest in that will help you grow your business. So I'm Bob Nagin, and again, I am honored that you gave me your time. Thank you very much. Goodbye.